the new planet with old problems. The planet Ceres 9 looked like paradise. Blue skies, purple trees, clean rivers. But under its beauty, the problems were growing fast. Jack Carter, a human engineer, stepped off the transport ship with grease on, his hands and tired eyes. He was sent here to help build water systems in the alien sector. Fresh start, he told himself. But even on this new planet, the same old hate followed. Humans and the native alien species, the Volari, had agreed to colonize Ceres 9 together. That was the dream. But on the ground, things were different. The aliens thought humans were too loud, too dirty, too hungry. The humans thought aliens were strange, cold, and dangerous. Jack didn't care about any of that. He liked machines, not politics. He fixed things, pipes, wires, engines. That was his world. His first day in the alien zone was quiet. The Volari didn't speak much. They watched him with glowing eyes and whispered in their soft language. Jack worked fast, careful not to offend. He noticed broken water lines, damaged filters, and no tools in sight. "Who's in charge here?" he asked. No one answered. That night, Jack stayed behind to finish repairs. The others left. The sun set, casting the alien forest in dark blue light. Then, he heard it. A sharp cry from the trees. It wasn't human. Jack stood still. Another cry, closer this time. It sounded like someone being hurt. He grabbed his flashlight and followed the sound. Behind a pile of stones and tall grass, he found her. An alien woman. 2 large male aliens surrounded her, pulling her robe, speaking in angry tones. She was trying to escape. Her hair was silver, glowing under the moon. Her skin was pale violet. Her eyes were wide with fear. Jack didn't think. He shouted, "Hey!" The 2 aliens turned. They didn't speak English, but his tone was clear. One of them moved toward Jack, tall and strong, but Jack didn't back down. He raised his wrench. For a moment, it looked like there would be a fight. Then the woman spoke in their language. Fast, sharp, powerful. The 2 males stopped, glanced at each other, then walked away. Jack stood there, breathing hard. "Are you okay?" he asked. The alien woman looked at him. Not scared, not angry, just tired. "I am not hurt," she said softly, in perfect English. Jack blinked. "You speak English?" "I learned. Long ago," she said. "You should not have come. You needed help," he replied. She didn't answer. She turned and started walking away. Jack followed her a few steps. "Wait, what's your name?" She stopped. The wind moved her silver hair gently. "Silari," she said. Then she vanished into the shadows of the forest. The next morning, Jack went back to work. But the other workers acted different. Some glared. Some avoided him. One human whispered, "You shouldn't mess with them, Carter. They don't forget." At lunch, a Volari elder approached him. Her face was covered with gold tattoos. "You saw Silari?" she asked. Jack nodded. "She was in danger." "She is always in danger," the elder said. "She brings it wherever she goes." "What does that mean?" Jack asked. The elder leaned in close. "She is marked, chosen, but rejected by her own blood. She will bring trouble to anyone who walks beside her." Jack frowned. "She didn't seem dangerous." "Not yet," the elder replied. "But soon." That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her. Her silver eyes, her calm voice, the way she stood in danger like it was normal. He looked out the window of his small room. Far beyond the walls of the camp, deep in the forest, a soft glow moved among the trees. Silver light. Silari. Jack couldn't get her out of his mind. That night, after the elder's warning, he saw the glow again in the trees. He wasn't imagining it. Silver light shimmered softly beyond the colony's boundary fence, like moonlight trapped, in motion. Against his better judgment, Jack grabbed his coat and flashlight and slipped out. He didn't know what he was chasing: danger, mystery, or something he had never felt before. He moved carefully through the quiet alien forest, every step crunching, soft purple moss under his boots. The air smelled sweet and cold. Then he saw her, Sayalari, sitting beside a pool of glowing water, her silver hair floating around her like a halo. Her eyes met his before he could even speak. "You followed," she said calmly as if she'd been expecting him. Jack lowered his flashlight and nodded. "I didn't mean to spy, She tilted her head. "You just couldn't forget." Jack gave a small laugh. "Something like that." He stepped closer and sat a few feet away. For a while, they said nothing, just watched the stars reflect in the glowing pool. Then Sayalari spoke. "This pool is sacred to my people. Only those born in my line can see it shine." Jack looked down. The water sparkled like liquid diamonds. "It's beautiful." "It's cursed," she replied. "Like me." Jack turned to her, confused. "You saved yourself last night. You weren't weak. You spoke, and they left. Why do people say you're cursed?" Sayalari hesitated. Then slowly she reached into her robe and pulled out a small crystal. It pulsed with a soft hum. "This was placed in my body when I was born. It binds me to the High Line, the Valari royal blood. I was born to choose a mate and continue our legacy." She looked away. "But I rejected them. I didn't want to be chosen like an object. I wanted to choose for myself." Jack frowned. "So, they turned against you?" "Yes. And now I live between worlds. My own people hate me for disobedience. Humans fear me because I look like power. No one trusts a woman with royal blood who won't kneel." Jack was quiet. Her voice held sadness but also strength. "That's not fair," he said finally. "You're just living your truth." Sayalari smiled faintly. "That's a human thing to say." He chuckled. "Maybe. But it's a good thing." She looked at him again. "Why do you speak to me, Jack Carter? You know your people don't like this." Jack shrugged. "Because I like machines, not borders. Because you didn't run when I came, and because I think you're more human than most humans I've met." She stared at him, unreadable, then said, "You should not say such things." "Why?" he asked. "Because I'll get in trouble? Or because you'll start believing me?" She stood, brushing dirt from her robe. "You don't understand what you're walking into. I may be forced to choose a mate soon. Not for love, but to protect peace." Jack stood too. "That's not a choice. That's a sentence." Sayalari didn't reply. The crystal in her hand pulsed stronger now. "They gave me 30 cycles to decide. That ends in 3 days." Jack took a step closer. "What happens if you don't choose?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Exile or execution." His jaw tightened. "They'd kill you for wanting love? They'd call it betrayal." Jack looked at her face, strong, proud, but tired. "Then maybe they deserve to be betrayed." She blinked, surprised. Then, for the first time, she laughed. It was soft, musical, like wind through leaves. "You speak like no other man I've known." He smiled. "Good, because I'm not like anyone you've known." They stood there for a moment, 2 lives from different worlds, drawn together by something neither fully understood. Then Sayalari stepped back. "You must go. If they find you here, it will not end with warnings next time." Jack nodded slowly. "Will I see you again?" "Come back tomorrow," she said, then vanished into the trees like smoke. Jack returned to the human camp before sunrise, but everything had changed. In his heart, something new had awakened. Curiosity had turned into concern. Respect had grown into something warmer. And as the colony stirred to life around him, Jack realized one thing. He didn't just want to see her again. He needed to, even if it cost him everything. The next day felt heavier than usual. Jack worked in silence, the metal pipes clanking under his wrench, but his thoughts were far away, in the forest, by the glowing pool, with the woman whose name was now carved into his thoughts. Sayalari. Every time he thought of her voice, her silver eyes, or the sadness in her laughter, something inside him stirred. He had known her for just 2 nights, yet it felt like she had opened a door inside him that had never been touched. As soon as the sun dipped low, Jack left the work zone. He didn't care who saw. He didn't care about the whispers or the warnings. All he cared about was getting back to her. This time she was waiting. Sitting on a stone near the glowing pool, she looked at him like she had been waiting forever. "You came back," she said, her voice calm, but her eyes warm. "Of course I did," Jack replied, walking toward her. "You told me to." She tilted her head. "And if I hadn't, I would have still come?" Her lips curled slightly, almost a smile. They sat together again in silence, but it wasn't awkward. It felt right. Like the air between them understood something neither of them dared say. "I've been dreaming of you," she said softly. Jack turned to her, surprised. "You have?" "Yes," she whispered. "Ever since that night, I hear your voice in my sleep." Jack felt something strange in his chest. "What did the dream say?" She looked at him and for a long moment said nothing. Then slowly she whispered, "That you'll change everything." Jack's heart pounded. "I'm just a mechanic." "Maybe," she replied. "Or maybe you're more." That night she showed him more of her world. Ancient trees that hummed when touched. Flowers that opened only at night. She told him stories of Valari ancestors, of wars and peace, of stars, lost and regained. In return, Jack shared his childhood, Earth's skies, his broken family, and how machines were the only things that ever made sense. By the time the moon rose high, they sat closer. When Sayalari shivered, Jack placed his coat over her shoulders. Her fingers touched his hand, lightly, almost afraid, and he didn't pull away. But their peace didn't last. A soft buzzing filled the air. Jack looked up. A surveillance drone. It hovered between trees, its red eye blinking slowly. "Don't move," Sayalari whispered, pulling him into the shadows. But the drone had already seen them. It blinked twice, recording, then zipped away into the darkness. Sayalari stood quickly. "We must go. Now." "They saw us," Jack said. "Yes," she answered. "And they will tell the tribunal." They ran through the woods, branches slapping against their arms, hearts pounding. When they reached the edge of the human camp, Sayalari stopped. "You must leave first. Alone. If they catch us together, it will mean something worse." Jack hesitated. "I won't let them blame you." "You must," she said firmly. "This is bigger than us now." Jack stepped closer. "Then what are we?" Sayalari's voice dropped. "Something they will never accept." Her hand reached for his face, brushing his cheek. "But something real." Then she was gone. Jack walked back to camp just before curfew. No one stopped him. But the next morning, everything was different. 2 security officers waited outside his quarters. They said nothing, only handed him a folded piece of paper, a summons, the colony tribunal. Jack unfolded it slowly. His name was there. So was hers. The charge: cross-species intimacy outside protocol. Violation of unity agreement. Jack sat down, stunned. They had turned a simple meeting between 2 people into a crime. But deep down, he had expected this. The world wasn't ready. Yet maybe it never would be. Unless someone made it ready. He looked at the crystal Sayalari had given him last night. Just a small shard, glowing gently in the dark. A piece of her world, now in his hand. They weren't just building water pipes and homes on this planet. They were building a future. And Jack realized that future had to include love, even when it didn't look like what people expected. Even if it came with silver eyes and a forbidden name. The tribunal hall was cold, silent, and carved from black stone mined deep within Ceres IX's northern mountains. At the center stood a wide circle where both humans and Valari judges sat, their robes fluttering under artificial wind meant to mimic Earth's breeze. Jack stood alone in the middle, eyes forward, back straight, while dozens watched from high benches around him, leaders, soldiers, citizens. On the opposite side of the chamber, Sci-Fi appeared. She walked with her head high, shoulders straight, though her eyes betrayed the weight she carried. Her silver hair had been tied back, her robe darker than usual, formal, but stripped of all signs of status. Her presence alone sparked murmurs across both sides of the court. A human guard beside Jack whispered, "You really did it. You really touched her." Jack ignored him. His eyes stayed locked on hers. She gave a small, almost invisible nod, one that meant, "I'm not afraid." The main judge, an alien named Oren Tha, raised a staff and silence followed. This hearing addresses a breach of the Unity Protocol. Human Jack Carter is accused of forming an unsanctioned bond with Valari noble-blood Sci-Fi. The law forbids such actions unless officially approved by both councils. Jack stepped forward. "I didn't break anything. We talked, we shared stories, we connected. That's not a crime." "Not a crime," a human elder barked, "but a spark. And sparks on Ceres 9 become fires." Another alien judge added, "The Valari people have traditions. Bonds are sacred. Her line is royal. Her mate must be chosen for peace, not pleasure." Jack clenched his fists. "She's not a tool for peace, she's a person." Sci-Fi stepped forward now, voice steady. "I chose to meet him. No one forced me. I gave him no secrets, no power, only truth and kindness. If that is a crime, then this planet is not ready to unite at all." The room erupted. Some humans cheered. Others shouted. The alien side murmured in panic. The council banged their staffs to restore order. Finally, Judge Oren Tha raised his hand again. "Then so be it. If the bond is mutual, then let the girl choose. According to ancient law, a Valari noble-blood must bond by the 30th cycle. That ends tomorrow. If she does not choose, her fate is exile. But if she does choose..." His eyes narrowed. "Her mate must accept all consequences." Jack looked at Sci-Fi. "What does that mean?" She answered without blinking. "It means you'll never return to Earth. You'll be bound to this colony forever. Watched, judged, feared. You'll never be just a mechanic again. You'll be part of history." Jack took a breath. "That's not so bad. I never liked Earth anyway." The judge slammed his staff. "Then we meet tomorrow at dawn. She will speak her choice before both councils. Until then, you are to remain apart. No contact." Guards stepped forward. One took Jack by the arm, another moved toward Sci-Fi. For a second, their hands brushed as they passed, and Jack felt her fingers squeeze his, once, quick, firm, like a silent promise. Then she was gone. Jack spent the night in a cold room under observation. No windows, no clock, only time that dragged like a weight. He stared at the crystal she had once given him, still glowing faintly blue. He thought of her voice, her strength, her loneliness. How could love be a danger to peace? How could kindness feel like rebellion? The next morning came fast and slow at once. He was dressed in neutral robes and led back to the tribunal circle. A large crowd had gathered this time, workers, elders, alien guards, even off-world diplomats. Whispers filled the air like smoke. And then she entered. Sci-Fi, dressed in a flowing silver robe with her family's sigil faintly glowing on her shoulder. Her face calm, her step sure. Judge Oren Tha spoke loud and clear. "Sci-Fi of the Valari, daughter of the noble line, bearer of the choosing. Crystal, speak now. Will you accept the traditions and bind with one of your own or choose exile?" A hush fell. Every eye locked on her. She stepped into the center, then looked directly at Jack. "I will not choose from those offered to me," she said. Gasps echoed. Instead, she paused, raising the glowing crystal high above her head. "I choose the human." Silence. For a breath. Then shouting. Fury. Shock. Joy. The alien side erupted in disbelief, while the humans divided in whispers and applause. One Villari elder cried out, "This is madness!" But Sailari held her ground. "I choose with heart, not fear." Jack stepped forward. "And I accept her choice." The council did not nod. They did not smile. They simply said, "Then let it be recorded. The first cross-union of noble blood is declared." And just like that, a bond born in the shadows was now burned into the law of two species. The days after the declaration were anything but peaceful. What should have been a celebration felt more like the start of a war. Sailari's choice shook the entire colony. Some called her brave, others called her a traitor. Jack became the center of attention, not for his skills but for daring to stand beside her. The human sector was split. Some praised him for building a bridge between species, while others whispered that he had shamed Earth. The Villari reacted worse. Walls that once stood tall with silence now buzzed with anger. Families removed their daughters from public view, elders demanded meetings, and soldiers doubled their patrols. Rumors flew like sparks in dry air. Assassins, sabotage, rebellion. The Unity Council remained quiet, trying to act calm while the world around them cracked. Meanwhile, Jack and Sailari were placed under round-the-clock protection in different zones. They were not allowed to meet, to talk, not even to share messages. Still, they found ways. A smuggled flower, a hidden note inside a food crate, a whisper carried by a sympathetic worker. Each small sign reminded them they were not alone. But pressure grew. Threats came. One night, a firebomb exploded outside Jack's quarters. It missed, but the message was clear. "Go home, human." The next morning, a painted wall read, "She is not yours." Jack cleaned it himself. Sailari, too, faced threats. Hers came from within her own people. One of her cousins arrived unannounced and pleaded with her. "Undo this before someone gets hurt. You are family, not a symbol." But Sailari only said, "A symbol can change everything." And change was coming fast. The council agreed. If this bond was to be legal, a formal union ceremony had to take place, not in secret, not in shadows, but in the Unity Hall with leaders and people from both species watching. "If you wish to marry," the council said, "do it under the sky, where no one can deny what they see." The date was set for 3 days later. A neutral zone between the human and Villari sectors would be turned into the wedding ground. Jack was handed ceremonial armor, smooth metal woven with thread from Villari silk, heavy, cold, and alien. Sailari received a robe stitched with human-made fabric, plain but strong. Both their garments were gifts from the other species, a sign of union, a sign of risk. Soldiers were placed around the venue. Drones scanned rooftops and trees. Snipers were placed not to kill, but to protect. Yet no one felt safe. Even Jack wondered if someone would try to stop the wedding. Sailari refused to hide. "If I die for this," she said, "then it proves the world isn't ready. But I will not live in fear." The night before the wedding, Jack was alone under the stars. He looked up, thinking of Earth, of everything he left behind. Friends, family, a life that never felt like his. And now, this, a love the universe didn't understand. But to him, it made perfect sense. "She chose me," he whispered, "and I'll never let her stand alone." The morning of the ceremony arrived, with cold wind and silver light. The guests arrived early, humans in suits and uniforms, Villari in long robes and armor. Most had never seen a wedding between species. Some came with hope. Others came with hate. Jack stood at the front, heart pounding. His armor shimmered in the sun. Across from him, Sailari appeared, walking slowly, her silver hair loose, robe flowing like water. She didn't look nervous. She looked proud. The officiator, a half-human, half-Villari diplomat, raised his hands. "We gather not just to witness a bond," he said, but to test if peace can bloom from love. He turned to Sayalari. Do you accept this human Jack Carter as your chosen mate, bound in will and spirit? I do, she said clearly. Then he turned to Jack. Do you accept this Sayalari of the noble line, as your chosen partner, in danger and in peace? Jack took her hand. Always. Just as the final words were spoken, a sound cracked through the sky. A high-pitched screech, then a boom. The crowd gasped. A drone spiraled from the air, smoking, crashing near the guests. Panic. Screams. Guards shouted. Jack pulled Sayalari close. Get down. But before they could move, the ground behind the altar rumbled, and from it rose something ancient. A massive beast, part stone, part flesh, glowing with blue symbols. Its wings unfurled, towering over everyone. Weapons raised. People shouted. But the beast did not attack. It knelt. Its head bowed. To Sayalari. The Valari gasped. A guardian, someone whispered. It recognizes her. Sayalari stepped forward, stunned. The beast opened its massive claw, and inside lay a stone heart pulsing with light. She turned to Jack. It accepts you. The beast had chosen. And in that moment, silence returned. What rose in fear ended in awe. The wedding was complete. The day after the wedding was one the galaxy would remember. News of the ancient guardian beast kneeling before Sayalari spread like wildfire through both the human and Valari networks. Videos of it flooded the colonies, intercoms, and off-world media. Even Earth's politicians sent urgent messages to the Unity Council demanding explanations. But while the world buzzed, Jack and Sayalari had no time to celebrate. The moment the vows were spoken, the world around them had changed. They were now not just a couple. They were a symbol, a threat, a miracle, and to some, a mistake. Security around them tripled. Every word they spoke, every move they made, was watched. Yet something had shifted between them. In private, behind reinforced doors, Jack took Sayalari's hands and looked into her eyes, still glowing faintly from the energy of the Guardian. What happens now? He asked. She didn't answer right away. Then softly she said, Now, the trials begin. That same night their bond was to be sealed in front of the Council of Union Laws. Not just a ceremony of love, but a binding of blood. A Valari tradition rarely practiced anymore. A ritual where a drop of each partner's blood would be shared into a sacred vessel, proving the strength of their choice before the planet itself. Jack had heard of it only in whispers, but he agreed without hesitation. If that's what it takes, I'll do it. As the two stood before the ancient altar, high in the mountains where the Valari once crowned their leaders, the wind howled like the voices of the past. Elders from both races watched with unreadable faces. Sayalari's father, a cold, stern figure who had once ordered her exile, stood near the edge, silent, his eyes fixed on the stone beneath their feet. Jack noticed, but didn't flinch. A priestess of the old ways stepped forward. Her robe was made of bark and bone, her face painted in blue ash. She spoke slowly in both languages, announcing the ritual of Karthren, the vow of blood and light. You who defy the past, she said, step forward. Offer your truth. Sayalari held out her hand first. The priestess gently sliced, her palm with a sacred blade made of living crystal. Her blood, dark silver, almost glowing, dripped into a carved stone bowl. Then she turned to Jack. He didn't hesitate. His hand was sliced, red blood falling into the same bowl. As the two fluids touched, the bowl began to hum, a low sound, alive. The blood swirled, not mixing but dancing, red and silver circling each other like moons around a shared gravity. Then it rose in a soft beam of light that shot into the sky, visible for miles. The priestess spoke again. It is done. The vow is witnessed. The bond is real. For a moment everyone was silent. Even the wind stopped. Then a sound broke. The stillness. A deep growl from the far edge of the altar. A figure stepped out from the shadows. Not a guard, not a guest, an assassin. Valari by blood, but dressed in black cloth soaked with poison symbols. He held a curved blade, illegal on this world. "She has betrayed the line," he shouted. "The Guardian was a lie. The blood is a trick." Chaos erupted. Guards moved, elders screamed, but the assassin moved faster, rushing toward Silari. Jack didn't think. He jumped in front of her just as the blade came down. It sliced deep into his side. Pain roared through him, hot and blinding, but he stayed standing, his eyes locked with the attackers. "She is my wife," Jack said through clenched teeth. "And I'll bleed for her again if I have to." Before the assassin could strike again, the Guardian, silent since the wedding, let out a deafening roar from below the cliffs. Its cry shook the mountain. The rocks trembled. The attacker froze and was tackled by security. He was dragged away, screaming curses. Blood poured down Jack's side, staining his robe. Silari dropped to her knees, pressing her hands to the wound, panic breaking through her calm. No, you can't." "I'm fine," Jack grunted. "It's just a scratch." It wasn't. But he smiled anyway. She looked at him, eyes wide and wet. "Why did you protect me?" "Because I gave a vow," he whispered. "And I meant it." He blacked out after that. When he woke, he was in a recovery chamber, wrapped in alien healing mesh. Silari sat beside him, still holding his hand. Her voice was soft. "They're calling you brave now, even the elders. My father..." He asked if he could visit. Jack blinked. "He did?" She nodded. "I think he wants to understand. He's not the only one." Jack smiled weakly. Then maybe this bond wasn't just blood and vows. Maybe it was the start of something bigger. Silari leaned down, kissed his forehead and whispered, "Yes, and the world is finally beginning to see it." Weeks passed since the wedding, and everything on Ceres 9 had changed. The human and Valari sectors no longer looked at each other through fear or silence. They looked through curiosity. The bond between Jack and Silari had done something no treaty ever could. It made both sides feel love, danger, sacrifice, and most of all, hope. But even with eyes watching from all sides, Jack and Silari chose to live as simply as they could. Their new home was placed directly on the border, half built with earth steel, half with Valari stone. Inside, tools sat beside ancient scrolls, and flowers from both worlds grew together in the same garden. Still, not all hearts had softened. Protests rose, both quiet and loud. Jack was invited to speak before Earth's Outer Council via broadcast. Some members demanded his return, others wanted to arrest him. He refused. "I chose this life. I chose her. I'm not going anywhere." Silari, too, stood before the Valari High Elders in a silent chamber lit by fire crystals. One elder asked, "Do you truly believe this path was worth the chaos it brought?" And she had answered, "Chaos always comes before change." The Guardian remained near their home, silent and loyal. No one dared approach it, but many came to watch from a distance. Pilgrims called it a living omen. Children sketched its image in the sand. Scientists begged to study it, but the beast only stirred when Jack or Silari stood near. The council finally agreed on a new name for the bond, the First Union. Not a political phrase, a title, a truth. Two lives from opposite species choosing one path, openly, proudly, and without fear. A celebration was planned, not just for them, but for the idea itself. A feast shared between human engineers and Valari farmers, soldiers and healers, traders and priests. The air on that day buzzed with music and light. Jack, now wearing a lighter version of his ceremonial armor, stood on a raised platform with Silari beside him glowing in soft blue robes that shimmered in the sun. She squeezed his hand as the crowd gathered. The officiator stepped forward again, the same half-human, half-Valari who had married them. "Today," she said, We honor not a wedding, but a doorway. The doorway they opened, for all of us. Then the crowd parted and a child walked forward. Not human, not Valari, but something in between. A girl with brown skin dusted with silver, and eyes that glowed faintly violet. She wasn't their child, but a young orphan from another hybrid couple who had secretly married months before, inspired by Jack and Celery's bravery. The girl looked up at them and said, "Thank you for showing us we can belong." Jack knelt and hugged her gently, his eyes stinging. "No, thank you. You are the future we bled for." Celery placed a necklace around the girl's neck. Half crystal, half metal. "Let this remind you, you never walk alone." After the speeches, music rose and food was shared across long tables under the alien trees. Jack laughed for the first time in weeks, a full laugh, the kind that bubbles up from peace. Sayalari watched him with quiet pride. Later that night, they stood together under the stars outside their home, hands clasped as the wind blew softly. "Did you think we'd make it this far?" Jack asked. "No," Sayalari admitted, "but I always hoped." "Do you think the others will follow?" "Some already are. Love is stubborn like that." Jack nodded, looking up at the stars. "One day, maybe no one will care who loves who, human or Valari. Maybe that won't even matter." Sayalari leaned her head on his shoulder. "It matters now, because we made it matter." They stood in silence as the stars glowed, the Guardian sleeping below the cliffs, the colony lights blinking gently in the valley. Behind them, 2 flags waved side by side, one human, one Valari. But above their home flew a new banner. A simple design, 1 red line, 1 silver line crossing into a single golden thread. It had no name yet, but it meant one thing to everyone who saw it: together. And though the galaxy remained vast and broken in many places, something had begun here. Not a perfect peace, not a quiet surrender, but a start. And every start, no matter how fragile, begins with 2 hearts brave enough to stand alone. Together.